you know, we have 6 students graduating this semester who have done advanced work and really wonderful work in creative writing. In fact, I think this is a really special group this year. I think you'll see why after you hear them read. The first reader, will just be going alphabetically, is Simona Citescu. Now tell me how to say it correctly.
Citescu.
Citescu. Simona was born in Romania and did not come to the U.S. until she was 14. And I think that makes her writing even more amazing, given that she has spoken English for 7 years. And her work is beautiful and is already winning awards. She was this year's winner of the Academy of American Poets Award and also the Barbara Award for Poetry.
I'm going to read a couple of poems, and I'm also going to read an excerpt from a story that I'm writing for the Middle Center's class this semester. So I'm going to start with the poem and go on to an excerpt from the story. The first poem I'm going to read is Thirst, and they're all in here if you guys want to look at them today. Thirst. I have made a vessel of your words, pour my best wine, blush, Chardonnay, depending on the moment. Sip at dinner where the family gathered, bodies in near proximity to plates, knives, champagne glasses with other bodies, where words like fish scales slip sharp slivers in the choke, swallow their smoothness in the cup. I drink deeply from the silver vessel, purified from my fears, like reddish sand grains dripping in my being's hourglass, running thread through the sun, thin red thread, bone and marrow thirst for the hollowness of ashes, mystery of the way we draw each other in the circumference of this broken circle. I drink as the last grape falls, opaque trail of laughter, empty as the lulled drums, its echo ricocheting off skin, and eyes that run soft, cold, and never meet. I drink because something has broken, and beyond its boundaries, only the stain of unmended words on my lips. The wine turns sour, fermenting this vessel from which I taste nothing. And on to the story, and I'd just like to make a little disclaimer. The name of the story is not Walking Taco Bell. But unfortunately, Alex, who also works for Dr. Me, he asked me a minute before, so we can put the title on here. But I don't have a name for the story yet, and it's actually turned to be a very long story. But I will eventually chat it. Okay. I walk knowing that walking won't get me anywhere, that the road I seek, the journey I've wanted to make, has ceased to be a possibility, that I'm rooted in this place of my own choosing. Mother used to say that marriage is sacred, that once you have vowed, you can't break. So I refuse to break. Instead, I walk Taco Bell and mingle with the neighbors for gardening or picking up mail, listen to their benevolent banter, join in one another. Other days, I seek solitude and take the shortcut to the park through the smoldering woods behind our house, tread through mud while the dog chases butterflies, squashes violets to the ground. I remember reading somewhere that a violet gives off its sweetest scent when it's crushed. The house is usually a mess, but I have until 7 or 8 to make it back into a home, to change its forlorn face, to wash the mud stains off my feet and brush my woolly hair. Last night, Andre came home after 9, exhausted. I was sitting on the window seat, listening to the first shimmer in the moonlight when he came in, hair falling in his eyes, his white shirt open at the neck, sleeves rolled above his elbows, forearms chiseled and tense, tendons, muscles breaking through the skin. He dropped his briefcase and threw himself on the couch, eyes closed, his entire body sharp angles and lines. Even in his moments of relaxation, taut, every fiber stretched. Hi, Amore, how was work? I needle to untie his laces and remove his shoes. He watches me through light brown strands of hair flecked with gold, amused, tired lines in the corner of his mouth. Work was exhausting. We finished the plans for the new building. Just have to get them approved now. Stillner is meeting tomorrow with the boss in the building. His fingers traced the line of my jaw, while I sat elbow propped on his knees, bone digging into bone, desiring for him to really see me, listening to his voice smooth as grapes. Beautiful jaw, he whispered distractedly, perfectly proportioned. Yes, I knew all about proportions. I'd read in a magazine about the perfect ratio of shoulders to waist to hips. I dug for hours in the closet for a tape measure, only to be disappointed later when I realized my hips were too wide and my waist too small. I wanted to be the ideal proportions like Venus de Milo was on the movie 3 years ago. Andre said she was flawlessly symmetrical, that from her navel one could draw lines in all directions, touching every corner of the universe, because she fulfilled the geometric requirements of the golden mean. Within the thin enclosure of her body, she held circumference radius, the number pi. Her center held perfectly in the magnetizing pull of gravity. Her weight a mere illusion of laws and forces superimposed on marble, on a body that knows and loves its limitations. Let's go for a walk. Andre interrupted my thoughts, and I became aware that he had been staring at me for a while. No dinner? I asked, dreading that he might actually want the overly steamed broccoli cold and crumbling in a plastic container, the chicken dry and hard, some type of cheese sauce I had read about in a recipe book. They never turned out like in the picture thickened over it. I'm not hungry. I just want to clear my head. He reached for my hand and tripped over the shoes I had left at the foot of the couch. Put the shoes in the closet, Maria. His voice was calm, but my face flushed with embarrassment. I rushed to the closet, shoes in one hand, my coat in the other, stumbling over the carpet that would always form creases on the hardwood floor. I kicked it into its proper place, knowing he wasn't watching. The night was soft with pinprick stars stitched to velvet, clouds rolling over the moon like a veil, rain coming down a hushed whisper. Andre slipped his arm around me, elbow bent, palm applied perfectly parallel to my hip bone. We walked in silence as beautiful as me, feeling the loneliness of each evening. I asked if we could take Paco, but he never liked the silly fables. And so we left him in his cage to sleep with brown eyes staring at us longingly as we closed the gate and started walking towards the park. The firs were singing, nodding to each other, caught in some dance in slow motion. I thought I was hearing notes from my friends, but it was only the wind lilting softly, notes in a minor key, sad and full of memory. I thought of my violin somewhere at the bottom of my closet, its case dusting along with boxes overflowing with shoes, scarves, hat I don't wear anymore, just another part of the disarray of my room. In the earlier days, to be mine and Andre's room, we would share closet space, bathroom space. The chaos was ours. His white-collar shirt stained with sweat on the back and underarms thrown on the floor, mingling with my colorful skirts, with the scarves I would wrap around my heavy hair to keep it out of my eyes, while I was cooking on our stove outside, burning sloppy omelets while he would cube cheese and make platters of it with large green olives, red and yellow peppers, tomato slices, fresh black bread, and soft yellow butter. We would eat together out on the terrace in the swing, laughing quietly, balancing the plates on our knees, our fingers tangled, my cheeks blushing, with a quiet sense of comfort. Then he would clean up, scrub the stove, his back shining in the sunlight with sweat, sweep the terrace where we had dropped crumbs, dripped honey, and spilled a chamomile tea. Back then, Andre would walk to work every day, gray trousers, white collar shirt, full sleeves, open at the neck, sandals. He would kiss me for a long time right at the front door, unembarrassed even when neighbors walked by, or children would whisper and giggle as they rode their bikes or play hopscotch in the street. He would grin, break away, and then start walking down the driveway. At the gate, he would stop, rush back to the door, and kiss me again. I would laugh and push him away, knowing he would be late and wilted or either bored, flushed from exertion, carrying the mark of my kisses. A small kindled flame on his consciousness that would distract him the entire day. Then he would hurry home, find me sprawled on the couch, napping. When I would wake up, I would find myself resting with my head on his lap, propped on one of our couch pillows, with him either reading or dozing off, head thrown back, his Adam's apple protruding from his long, thin neck, arm weighing heavily on my stomach, his chest raising and falling with each intake breath. I would watch him, time turning in the alleyway, while shadows deepened, and I refused to move for fear of disturbing the strand of hair. I remember reading somewhere that love is not just making the other feel loved by oneself, but also by God. In those moments, while afternoon turned to dusk, and dusk particles shone on the hard floor of my gold, I felt loved by God.
Great. Sandy and I have been fighting over the authors. She Simone is converting as we speak. Actually, she's good at both of them. And so is Anna. And I really like the women here. I haven't read them until now. I think I was going to read it because it shows a lot of Anna's personality. What I love about Barry: English rhetoric and writing faculty, all of them immensely. English rhetoric and writing staff, namely Susan Burr, the Reservoir, played piano in the chapel, the Baker Hill family, the soccer team, running the loop, grounds crew, foreign students, the library just before closing, the Canterbury Club, DJ Jazzy Jim, wide open fields, and my friends, my friends, my friends, my friends. That's a great group. Anna is a remarkable student. She's just right there, right up front, getting, if something has to be done, she always volunteers. And I don't know how she has time to do it, because she seems to make pretty good grades and have a lot of friends and to do all this stuff. And she's been very helpful to me, especially because I'm new here. And I just ask Anna if I want to know anything about the English department here. She gets this really something so neat. She's great. And I also, I noticed I have two students who are joining the Peace Corps. Thinking about it. I didn't realize that I was a Peace Corps. So that's another thing I'm going to do. And I was going to read your work. Anna Erickson.
Thank you. I didn't really know that was a poem, but I guess it kind of is. It's supposed to be just my bio, but I guess it works. Okay, I want to read two poems that aren't mine, one that is, and then an essay. And first I'll read a poem by Kim Adelucio. And she came to Barry last year. I just love her. And I read this all the time. This is called The Singing. There's a bird outside crying. There's a bird crying outside. Or maybe calling. Anyway, it goes on and on without stopping. So I begin to think it's my bird. My insistent I, that today is so trapped by some nameless but still relentless longing that I can't get any further than this. One note clicking metronomically in the afternoon silence, measuring out some possible melody I can't begin to learn. I could say it's the bird of my loneliness asking as usual for love, for more anyway than I have. I could as easily call it grief, ambition, knot of self that won't untangle, fear of my own heart. All I can do is listen to the way it keeps on, as if it's enough just to launch a voice against stillness, even a voice that says so little that no one is likely to answer with anything but sorrow and their own confusion. I. Isn't it the sweetest sound, the beautiful, arrogant ego refusing to disappear? I don't know what I want, only that I'm desperate for it, that I can't stop asking. That when the bird finally quiets, I need to say it doesn't. That all afternoon I hear it and into the evening. That even now in the darkness it goes on. Okay, and I'll read my poem, Siren Song. I have drowned myself often for the cool blue, the melt water under the heron blue, life without little boy blue because he was pink underneath. I have drowned down below the headwater, deeper still than the bridge water, into the black water so black blue it's bruised water, because my bruises were yellow in the light. I have drowned in Bob Sea blue, black pool blue, even honeymooner's tears blue, because I am nothing in the desert. I am frozen in a glacier wall, an ice made of blue, with just a slightly grayish hue, because pink burns red and turns to ash. And this is an essay called An Excuse for Not Studying in Spring. I read a poem in my British literature class the other day about winter and all its philosophic melancholy. I read the poem outside, on a bench under a tree with newborn leaves and pollen to dust the whole college campus. A friend walked by sneezing, saying that she caught spring like a bad cold. Luckily, I do not have allergies and can catch spring like a baseball on the lawn with my brother. I was made to sit in the shade of a tree attired in spring. No allergies is proof. But anyway, the poem was good. These, the clouds of winter, not the clear blue sky of my spring day, it said, exalt the soul to solemn thought, so that one lone body, in danger of freezing under a snow cloud, retreats inside to do nothing but think. Bees buzzing makes thinking impossible. James Thompson, he wrote the poem, did a fine job making it all seem beautiful, but not like a violet. I have indulged in winter's bloom. A contemplative mind forgets frozen limbs, or covers them with a blanket. Books are constant companions. I finished the poem, shut my book, and lay face down on the bench. I thought about the poem, philosophized. If winter equals cold liberation, does spring equal warm impulsiveness? Why then was I thinking? I looked through the plants under me at dirt and wood chips and 3 green weeds. They were so small, but my eyes welled up. I too wanted only photosynthesis, to take root in something firm, to absorb sun, water, and soil thoughtlessly. I wanted to sway there with the shoots and not go to class in 10 minutes. The amount of time I had to prepare what I would say on James Thomas's winter. Thinking I should just get up, that I had but 1 month of enforced study and 4 study left to go. I left the bench then 8 minutes early. I walked into the air-conditioned humanities building and then the bathroom to look at myself. I saw confirmation of my body, not my brain. In the mirror, I saw the red bench point mark on my forehead. My eyes were glassy. I focused on that wetness, on the blue. My eyes were not windows into anything, but 2 small material oculi. The girl from class walked out of the stall. Do you graduate in May, she asked. Yes, I answered, turning from the mirror. Only 12 days of restoration lyric poetry left. We laughed, but insincerely. I left the bathroom and headed toward class. I had trouble making it up the stairs. At the top loomed a giant window made for looking out and thinking, which is nice in winter, but maddening in spring. I wanted to be out. Instead, I walked to class and sat in a plastic chair, opened my book, and tried to think of something smart to say about winter. Typically, because I am a good student who loves philosophic melancholy and the winter atmosphere of the classroom, I think on these things long before class. But I was tired of winter. So I resigned to my weariness, feeling it had been enough to uproot myself from the bench under the tree with the pollen and weeds. Almost in defiance, I raised my hand when the professor asked for reactions to the poem. I had a visceral response. I said to my bored classmates, Thompson is right. Winter is so much about solitude and stillness and silence and thinking. And when I read about it, outside with the humming, buzzing spring that does anything but sit still, I felt crazy. I thought I was just going to be sick. I felt like all I wanted to do in the world was stop thinking and just... The blank stares confirmed that I had gone too far. Visceral reactions are for spring break, not air-conditioned classrooms where a brain can forget its body, where philosophic melancholy, not corporal vigor, reigns. Another young woman raised her hand and shared her cool, analytic response. Listening to her, I knew this. Spring in a winter room is not very catching. Spring under a newly green tree is much harder to ignore. Required to sit through 30 minutes more of wintry philosophy, I tried and failed to create my own philosophy of spring on a scrap of paper. It makes good sense that I failed, for spring is the season of the body, of non-thinking and hyper-feeling impulsivity. I did, however, create a spring sensibility, sketching images, for a body in spring needs pictures, not concepts, that show spring for what it is. First, I drew the blooming tree under which I read winter and went out of my mind. Grown immodestly in neon green with its pollen sex in spring, the tree veils from all onlookers, working nature of its serious brown and sturdy framework. What secrets of tree nature one sees in winter are hidden by the verdant haze of photosynthesis in spring. Next, I drew a creek, frozen still, icy and reflective at its source high on a lonely snow-topped mountain, but rushing further downstream, surging heedlessly against mud-brown banks sprinkled with moss. I drew a sad blueberry bush in a garden, its tiny pink-white buds turned gray by a late March frost. Because the bush burst forth in flush sprays at spring's first breath of heat, because it does not take caution at the threat of ice, the bush will yield no blueberries this summer. Indeed, a blueberry bush does not consider whether or not the first week of March is the best time to bloom, whether or not a later emergence would produce more fruit in the months to come. A blueberry bush just blooms, that is all. I drew myself, a standing, smiling stick figure under the tree. Not a thought, but a speech bubble floated above my head, reading, Yippee. Sitting inside a winter room, I wanted desperately to join my drawing self outside. Spring drew my body to it because spring is for bodies and what feels good. My body was made for walking through gardens, fields, and forests. No allergies is evident enough. Calluses for walking, hair for a ponytail, fingers for digging dirt, and legs for gathering prickers and little itchy bugs for confirmation. Finally, because spring is for bodies together, and the bouquet is full of sex, because winter alone is for impregnable and pensive isolation, I drew a handsome companion, a young man sitting 2 rows behind me. We held stick hands. But my real hand, cold and clammy, held a pen above a piece of paper on a desk in a classroom full of winter's philosophic melancholy. Thus inhabiting a space where brains, not bodies, are important, I was separated further from my would-be companion by the immeasurable space between his thoughts and mine. Perhaps if my classmates and I had engaged each other, had communicated our feelings, we would have felt the pull. But we remained apart, thinking of all we wanted to be but were not doing, like sweating, like walking in the woods with the person we should tell we love, the person to whom we are viscerally pulled, but with whom we do not connect because our winter selves love safety and solitude, like putting hands on hips, like rolling around in the grass in sandals so that bits of dirt and plank get stuck between the toes, so that in the evening we soak our feet in big metal basins full of water and lavender bath salts splashing out the sides and onto the porch. This last thing never really happens, but it would be nice. It would be like spring, and I don't know why I've never done it. Honestly, I do know why. I cannot do all that my body would have me in spring because I am not a blueberry bush or a small green shoot under a bench. I am a human, and in all seasons I think. I take heed of heedless spring so that even now I turn in towards what my body felt under a tree on a bench. But I'm at my wit's transient end. And as soon as I stop writing, I'll leave my desk in my house to be with the bird twittering on the fuchsia azalea bush outside my window. I will stop thinking of blossoms and start blooming now. And this is a poem by Hafiz, and he is a great Sufi master. So the front of it says, tired of speaking sweetly, love wants to reach out and manhandle us, break all our teacup talk of God. If you had the courage and could give the beloved his choice, some nights he would just drag you around the room by your hair, ripping from your grip all of those toys in the world that bring you no joy. Love sometimes gets tired of speaking sweetly and wants to rip to shreds all your erroneous notions of truth that make you fight within yourself, dear one, and with others, causing the world to weep on too many fine days. God wants to manhandle us, lock us inside of a tiny room with himself and practice a drop kick. The beloved sometimes wants to do us a great favor, hold us upside down and shake out all the nonsense. But when we hear he is in such a playful, drunken mood, most everyone I know quickly packs their bags and hightails it out of town.
Our next reader is Jennifer King. And I want to read a little description that Jennifer gave of her own work. But first I just wanted to mention Jennifer, besides being a wonderful writer, is a very modest person. In her bio, she didn't even have mentioned that she was the winner of the 2003 Southern Women Writers Conference Award for fiction. But Jennifer, describing her work, uses the word realistic. She enjoys writing about events that happen to people every day, regardless of culture and location. Jennifer aims to provide readers with something they can relate to, even if there isn't always a happy ending, or even when there is no ending at all. She hopes that her writing makes others realize that they are not always alone. I think that says a lot about Jennifer as a person as well as a
thumbs up. This is called How Many Ways Can We Say Goodbye? I just named it too off of a country song I heard. I wrote it under the tutelage of Karen McElmurray, who teaches at Georgia College now in fall of 2003. The word memory The word memory oftentimes gives off the wrong connotation. It sounds ordinary and powerless, as if a person controls what he or she remembers. Memory sounds like a soft song that does you a favor by dancing through your mind and heart, leaving you with a smile as it drifts away again. People don't understand that memory actually has control over the person. It pops in at the worst possible times, just when you think you have gotten away, just when you think you are safe. I suppose that is what a memory is, something that refuses to let go of a person, just as much as the person unconsciously refuses to let go of the memory. However, the longer we hold on to this reminiscence, the more our grip molds it to a desirable shape. Facts become fiction, wishes become truths, ugly is beautiful. Faulkner knows. Memory believes before knowing remembers, believes longer than recollects, longer than knowing even wonders. It seems as if my own soul has made a specific cast that my memories must conform to. We believe our memory more than we remember exactly what we know, what actually happened. Two people can never have the same remembrance. They often differ in times, dates, characters. Two individuals may even disagree on what actually took place. With that in mind, I feel as if I have no choice but to give you what I remember, what I believe. The eyes of a 6-year-old girl are likely to see things in a different way, in a manner that is almost intangible to others. Even other children cannot relate, for in our youth we can only see things personally, privately and selfishly. I cannot remember the day my mother left or the day she came back for me. I remember her phone calls and letters, the few visits we had together, the silly, thoughtless notes I wrote her in my childish handwriting. She kept every one of them. I remember my birthday with stamped packages, dozens of phone calls from her, and the sound of her voice as it shook with muffled sobs on the phone, but I don't remember her face on my birthday. I remember when she visited my kindergarten class, I radiated with pride. I saw the looks on the other kids' faces. I could tell they wished their moms were that beautiful. My mom was beautiful. Her love for me was beautiful. I remember when she had to leave again from her visits, and I said goodbye carelessly as a child does. I remember the tears that welled up in her eyes, one dangling from her mascara-coated eyelash as she smiled. Don't say goodbye. Goodbyes are forever. 5-year-olds have no concept of time, no idea of the pain or the love it induces, no idea of how long each day really is, each hour, each minute. I remember riding a Greyhound bus with my grandparents to visit her in West Virginia. It was the first time I ever saw snow. The jagged frost covered everything, and the cold air fogged the windows of the bus where I would draw pictures or attempt to write my name. The faint moisture on the pane was soothing to my skin, like the dampness of my puppy's nose as it muzzled my face in the summertime. I wore the mittens my mother had knitted me before she left. The smell of smoke that I had grown so accustomed to from my granddaddy's hands seemed to comfort me through the long ride with the many strangers. Nana always said he had working hands. They were covered with calluses and always smelled like gasoline, but I loved them too. I don't remember when we arrived in West Virginia, and I don't remember when we left. I just remember my mom. Her radiance seemed to whisper around my body and cloak me from the cold. I remember the arts and crafts we made in the game with the piñata. I gave her every indistinguishable animal, heart, and smile I created. She loved them, and she loved me. I noticed there were lots of women and lots of families in the school-like place my mother lived. A gate surrounded the miles of mountains and greenery, and it looked like a big college. It was beautiful. I was convinced it was my mom that made it beautiful. All of the women there had the same expressions, the same features. They smiled and laughed, embracing their families the way my mother held me, as if I would evaporate into thin air as she loosened her cuddle, as if I would run away. All of the moms' eyes were bloodshot with hints of moisture still decorating the corners. They knew the goodbyes would come soon. As our bus arrived to go back home, I hugged my mom around her tiny waist and buried my face in her inviting stomach. Her fingers raked through my tangled hair, and I felt her body shake. I knew she was beautiful even when she cried. I knew I would see her again. I knew she loved me no matter where she was. Even as a child, I knew how ugly my life was without my mother. The screams between Granddaddy and Nana began the minute we pulled back into the dirt driveway from our vacation, as they called it. It was as if the town itself was a catalyst for hate, for bitterness, for regret. Dozens of filthy children of all ages, all my friends, played in the road that circled our trailer park, Redwood Forest. Their heads didn't even turn as my grandparents fought their way into our home that shook with every shout. They merely played their games blindly, inviting me to come out and play too. I did not know I should be embarrassed, that I should try to stop my grandfather or shun my insane grandmother, that I should pour their bottles out while they were asleep or even hide my grandmother's pills. I didn't know how to stop their degrading comments about my mom. Every good thing I had to say about her would be attacked with comments such as locked up behind those golden bars or getting her ass in trouble for a man. I didn't care. I knew my mom was beautiful. When my grandparents' fights became too much for our humble home to hold, alliteration, I would wander outside, no matter the season, and climb into our above-ground swimming pool. I would pick scabs, play with my Barbie dolls, or swat gnats away from my snotty nose. But their screams and cries seemed to follow me wherever I went. Ironically, I hated silence more than I hated the screams. I slept in the bed with my granddaddy every night because I was afraid of the dark, afraid of being alone, afraid of silence. My grandmother slept in the guest room down the narrow hall alone. I used to ask why she didn't come and sleep in there with us too, why she didn't want to protect me or tell me stories. The smell of whiskey lingered in the air like humidity. I could almost smell it on myself and feel it on my own skin. I had been around it for so long that it comforted me, like my mother's voice. My granddaddy's scent of aftershave and alcohol reassured me that things were normal, nothing had changed. My Nana was the bad guy. To this day, after living with her for so long, I still can't remember anything she ever said to me. All I remember is thinking that it was her fault. He wouldn't hit her if she didn't deserve it, right? I remember I hated my granddaddy because of how hard he hit her, how loud his voice was, how much he drank, but I hated her more for putting up with him. One of my childhood best friends was named Lori, who lived in the home behind ours. She was a grade older than me, but we rode the same bus. I can't remember much about her family. I try, but I just can't. She had 2 younger brothers, and one was named Jared. I can't remember her other brother's name. Her mom's name was Cricket, and her boyfriend stayed in the house with them. Cricket was pretty, but not as pretty as my mom. Lori would join me sometimes in the algae-infested, empty swimming pool. She was older than me, so I followed her around most of the time. But it was only in the swimming pool that I felt equal, like she was truly my friend, like I didn't have to do what she wanted to. I didn't have to do what anybody said. Evening had set in, which made the heat seem even more suffocating. I felt a grumble in my butterball-like stomach, and the mosquitoes attacked my plump legs. It was time for Lori and I to surrender to one of our homes. Mine was out of the question. The heated debate over burnt fried chicken was still going strong. I heard the distinguishable crack of the telephone cord as it whipped across my Nana's skin. The window of the back door showed the shaking of the ceiling lights. The display seemed to glitter across the backyard, fragmented almost, like a show in a kaleidoscope. It was beautiful. Lori's house was quiet for the time being. We climbed the slimy ladder out of the pool and trotted barefoot across the road. The asphalt was still steaming from the recently setting sun, and my tender, dirty toes burned as we danced across the road like the magicians that tiptoed across a bed of coal. As we approached Lori's house, the bad words became clearer. We would often dare each other to say words like bitch and shit and fuck that we heard our guardians often shout repeatedly. We didn't really know what they meant, but we both pretended. On that day, her house appeared to be the lesser of 2 evils. Being that we had already crossed the road and we were unbelievably hungry, we took a chance. The carpet kissed the bottoms of our burnt and tired feet as we tiptoed in the house. Cricket's boyfriend with no name had packed up all his stuff, which was sitting by the door. They shouted back and forth in their room as we heard the slamming of drawers and breaking of glass. The 2 younger brothers, Jared and the one with no name, were playfully lugging the boyfriend's stuff towards the door. Not a big deal. This happened at least once a week. We were almost excited. We could get to hear more dirty words. The boyfriend with no name intercepted us as we made our way to the kitchen. He needed help taking all of his shit to the car. The four of us, Lori, Jared, me, and the brother with no name, lugged the overflowing paper bags and cardboard boxes to the truck. Cricket continued to yell obscenities from the porch, but we were too busy to take note of new words. It was the first sight of evil, of ever knowing that people can be inherently bad, of also knowing that women convince themselves of what is good. We filled the trunk of the car with the last boxes of clothes, shoes, and a bowling ball. Cricket and the man with no name were nose to nose, he in the car with the window rolled down, and she lunged over with her finger pointing at him. They continued to yell. By now, Lori and I had figured out that "fuck you" obviously meant goodbye. It was always said at the end of everything, when there was nothing else to say, just before someone would squeal out of a driveway or slam a door behind them. "Fuck you!" Cricket slung her dye blonde hair behind her and yelled at all of our names in uniform fashion. I watched from outside of the driver's side of the car as the brother with no name, on tiptoes, struggled naively to put the last box in the trunk. I watched the eyes of the boyfriend with no name as he looked in the rearview window at the boy. The tires squealed harshly in the dirt driveway, shavings of tiny pebbles and glass flying into our eyes and face. I watched the boyfriend with no name's eyes as he reversed, rolling over the boy with no name. He was breathing and crying, but bits of his skin and blood lay attached to rocks and blades of grass, like brownie mix on my grandmother's spatula. It seemed like I had my eyes closed the whole time, like I couldn't do anything, like I couldn't at least say what I saw, the man with no name's eyes. I watched as he scurried around and apologized. I listened as he talked Cricket out of calling the police. "They'll make me go back. They won't believe it was an accident." I ran home and told Donna and Granddaddy what happened. My grandfather held my face to his pot belly as if I was crying, but I wasn't. I didn't know how. At that point, I imagined what I should say to my mom at the end of our phone call, at the next time that I spoke to her. She called me every day. I would have to say, "Fuck you." I'm a lot happier in real life.
Our next reader is Heather Lowe. And Heather plans to go to graduate school after a year of traveling. And the interesting thing that Heather has to decide is she's going to get an MFA, but she doesn't know if she's going to do it in visual art or in creative writing. She's so wonderful. And in fact, I would like to say that clearly her poetry is much better than her art, and she should go that direction, but she really is a wonderful visual artist as well. In fact, the timing happened that I was picking out a work for the cover of my next book to send to the publisher, and I was looking through museum pieces, abstract expressionist art, trying to find something I liked, and Heather's seen her show around. I realized that was the work that needed to go on the cover, so I'm really proud of that one.
And I don't think mine are in there either, so don't around that. Or if they are in there, I've changed them already. Georgia winter. Piedmont, sudden still, peaked with February. All morning long, spring's been a smooth marble stone in my belly. The slimmed moon has traded hands and lies slung low, a silver scoop sunk in the Pacific. Nothing comforts like the hoarse voice of turning waters. Nothing comforts like the unfamiliar call of northern birds. I've lined the shoulders of the swollen Etowah with a dotted gait of stopping, to slide my thumb over the face of river rocks, prostrate in the unfrozen chuckle of the tide. All day, the winter sun hurls its melting orange light against my wall. Outside, the hens shocked, hold their breath, still waiting to be called.
trace narrows. Nature is balanced only in rhetoric. Water always follows thy path, so they say, of the least resistance. And a tree branches in the most unusual way, like the lion you walk after a few too many swallows of whiskey. All my life I thought rivers were a straight shot, but they don't grow like a bamboo shoot. They grow like a birch finding its branches in the sky's disarray. I like Mondrian's straight edge, but need Pollock's mass. I can't imagine your back curled any other way than a leaf in on itself. Striations of stretch marks pointing out we're all forced to find our own rhythm of missteps and misgivings. Like the jetty of your hair swirled and cocked in the patterns of sleep, waking you to turn. Kiss my forehead that wrinkles as the river twists. Skin finds rest in the lines my face makes again and again. So I don't dream of a house wrought in perfect Bauhaus style, a complication of formulas, purified colors. I dream of a home ruined by the redundancy of its failure to ever make the same leaf twice. To be repeated under my breath at least once to the rearview mirror. I believe no man is an island, but some live as peninsulas. The ocean is indecisive and lying on its belly, speaking the language of continual return. I don't believe in calling the space between a roof and the earth home. That word is hung in the hollow pre-dawn, when your breathing is only an unraveling whisper. I believe expiration dates are merely guidelines. Only scarred bodies have room for a soul, and coloring books teach good manners but bad vision. Humans don't have hollow bones. To fly, we walk, gaze into the breath between us and the creased edge of atmosphere, wonder. I never want to write the word tears in a poem about rain or Lord in a poem about flowers. I don't believe gravity connects me to the earth, but do believe in the force of my need to admit a need, to apologize even when it's not raining, and in the power of French film and whiskey. I don't believe in God the Father, but could believe in God the Child, swathed in a cold stellar light, pulled from the inside of a girl. I don't know where babies really come from, but hope it's someplace warm with the bond between two skins pulled together by a force stronger than belief. And for this I know I should phone home, even if just to stretch the line of my breathing. Should eat more fiber, but no less ice cream. Should listen in the doorway for the scarce call of a Chuckwill's widow, and handwrite a letter weekly, in my own voice, praying to the God of cold summer light and stables. That I never shoe the clumsy nuthatch among branches, that I never stop your movement and sleep, even when you're snoring, that I never close my eyes without believing in the truth of that blindness. Evening chant at San Miniato, April 5, 2002. Closing afternoon drenched, cedared air, the vaulted lungs and low-backed pews, slouching in the church's chest. I heard the voice of the cloister, blow over encroaching, almost dark, thrust the hose out like a sail, distended, and drug through the Arno. The sun throwing back its violet-edged reply, and I was soaked in a word. Words I had no tongue for, and the church not graced by Masaccio, but saints who took turns to draw a face on a body, frescoed to the wall, now rubbed nearly clean by plaster peels flecking to the floor. And I was a shaving curled within the ribs of a shy cathedral, cracked with a song that spilled down gravel steps, once moaned, and splashed over the piazza to lay scattered among the dark cypress trees. Drawing of extraction, one. Of extraction, withdrawal, removal. The winner of a trick is the first to draw from the path, to pull out, take out, extract a nail from what it's fixed in, a stone from the quarry. The rod draws electricity from the air, to select and set apart sheep from the flock for breeding, to cause to flow from a vessel, to obtain as with water from a well by hauling, pumping, cup quarrels, striving who should draw deepest, to draw you to desire, draw a conclusion, draw your own ruin, to pull one from a number of things, so as to decide something with chance, to take, receive, obtain. 2. Of attraction, drawing in or together, to draw the pen across 600 lines, elicit information from, straighten out, to render into another language or style, to translate as with a sail, to sail out tightly with wind, to bring together by sewing, edges to mend, to insert threads into petals in proper order. Like draws to like, a succession of evenings in late summer and autumn, to frame, to make, to formulate, to lay down, not only, to move or make one's way toward, to come near, approach, to come together.
I first heard of Jasmine Pittman from a friend of mine who judged the fiction contest for the Southern Women's Writing Conference. He said, I was so impressed with this one student's, with her writing. There was so much soul and talent there, and so much spirit. It wasn't the piece that she submitted wasn't quite finished enough to win the prize, but he kept talking about how much he was moved by this piece of prose. And this year I had the good fortune to have Jasmine as my student in the study. And I was happy to see something that I've read in here. I really like this story. And it's kind of fun to see it evolve. The students are evolving, and it looks shiny, clean, and polished. This version. So I'm anxious to hear.
Can everybody take a stretch break? Stand up and... Okay, the first thing I'm going to read is a poem, and it's in the little book, and it has two titles because I submitted it untitled, and so the editor...
It was Alex again.
I do like the title Under Bees Wings, and I think I'll keep that. So, here's days of heat and bare feet burning on concrete, jumping rope, rolling down green slopes, making us itch, but we don't care. We just roll on down, unaware of raising all kinds of weeds, to crown us with the sound of passing shade trees don't give. We're living under bees' wings and grandmamas whose hands seem dying against brown backsides, and we laugh, girl, we laugh, when later those hands rub our skin clean in a bath, and we drizzle honey on ice cream. Royal jelly's only fed to the queen. Before bed wraps us into the hive, and we dream of the high dive, higher than high, and we aren't afraid to jump or lie if we have to. Okay. Here's it's an excerpt, and rain splattered against the car windshield, tinged orangish yellow by light reflected from passing street lamps. My sister was in the back seat, ramped like a plump pink jelly bean in her sweater and raincoat, while I sat in the covered front seat. We were in the car because there was no place for us to go. We'd been evicted, a word I heard before, but now I knew exactly what it meant. We'd been pushed out of our townhouse as if we didn't belong in the place we called home. I already missed the lavender walls of my room. Mom had let me paint them that for my 13th birthday. She'd not waited for the police to come. She left before facing them. She must have had enough of black uniforms and knocks that made the door cough and shudder. I knew it was them because no neighbor ever knocked like that. Even when Star came dashing across our yard late at night, yelling and crying that her little boys had not come home after school, her knocks did not explode and echo in our home for days the way the police did. So we drove around in the car through the streets of Maryville, the town I'd lived in for most of my life. Our overnight bags were stowed in the trunk, and my rabbit, Fitz, was tucked into a small box beside my sister. My best friend Jenny raised rabbits, and after years of begging my mom for a pet, she gave in when I showed her the fuzzy brown and white bunny that Jenny kept aside for me from a new litter. I had to earn the cost of his food through chores, but that didn't matter. I finally had something that was really mine. I heard one of my mom's friends say a pet was a good responsibility, a good distraction.
distraction. But neither of those things seemed true. Distractions and responsibilities had nothing to do with it. I just wanted a pet because all the kids with nice houses and big families on TV at least had a dog or a cat or something. How's Dick doing back there, Leah? I turned to face my sister. You better not be trying to hold him. I'm not. He's just sitting here, Floral. She was sniffling again. Yeah, right. I saw your hand in there. It was not. Mom. Leah stuck her knee in the back of my seat. More sniffling. Mom, Leah's knee is in my seat. The girl's not now. She spit out the words like sand that gets stuck in your mouth at speech. You knew to obey that voice no matter what. I felt Leah sit back in her seat and turn back around to look out the window. Rain streaked across it and blurred the things outside. Yellow McDonald's arches, second chance thrift stores, darkened doors, the pink glow of the all-night gas station's open sign. The rain blurred it all until my eyes almost crossed, and I couldn't focus on anything but the drops of water running across the glass, flowing small rivers that pooled and morphed into miniature lakes, only to be broken apart as individual drops again. Mom, I hesitated. Where are we going? She didn't answer right away. She just kept her hands gripped on the wheel and her eyes fixed on the road. The windshield wipers spit water from the glass like the sprinkler Diddy and I played under in the summer. We may have to go to the homeless shelter. She didn't look over at me as she said it. I'd expected her to look, to ask me if I thought it was okay, or maybe smile at me because she'd only been joking. But she didn't look. She just made her way down the road slowly because of the rain. If we were going to be officially homeless, I wish she could have gotten us there faster. I did the calculations in my head. If 100 people at church gave us $50, certainly there were 100 people who could spare $50. That would make $5,000. Wasn't that enough money to let us keep our townhouse or to find another place? All we'd have to do is get the pastor to announce it after the worship service, and everybody would give a love offering to us. They said they loved us, so they should have no problem giving us some money. At Maryville's Holy Covenant, we called ourselves a generous church. I'm cold, Leah said softly. Mom didn't seem to be listening, and so I turned the heat up for her. I've been to the homeless shelter before with my church. We'd gone to visit the people there and talked and laughed and tried to cheer them up, but I hated doing it. There were kids from my school there, and they did not want to see me. They just didn't know that I could keep a secret. I wish I could have kept the secret about my dad being gone. He went to get a better job one day and just never came back. But now we were driving late at night, and our car was probably glowing with a huge homeless glow. I would have rather we slept in the car than go to that place. Sleeping in the car could be cool. I'd heard of lots of famous people that had done it, and that was where they were, Hollywood or Nashville or someplace like that. We were turning into an apartment complex I recognized, but it was hard to tell exactly whose in between the rain and the dark. As we stopped at the gate, I squinted to read the sign, Rose Lake. Mom was rolling down her window to talk to the guard, trying not to get her face wet. Oh, no. Where are we? Leah asked through a yawn. Connor and Ava, as I told her. Mom went to a Bible study with Connor and Ava Edwards. I secretly had a crush on Connor. He was young and cute, and he always talked to me, asked me about school or Jenny. Most people his age wouldn't bother trying to talk to me, but he always gave me a lot of attention. Why do we have to show up here so late at night? The guard went back into the gatehouse to call the Edwards so that he could let us through. Mom, why are we here? I squirmed a little. I saw by the look on her face that she hadn't heard me. The gate slowly opened and the guard waved at us as we passed by. Mom parked and let her hands rest on the wheel for a moment before she sighed. Wait in the car, okay, girls? I'll be right back. She got out of the car without taking an umbrella and didn't even put on the hood to her coat, but she left the car on so that we could stay warm. Give me this, Leah. He might pee on you. I think he's scared. Give him to me. I yelled at her too much, but sometimes I couldn't help it. She started to whimper, but didn't move. Leah! She was crying now as she reached into the box and picked bits up carefully, the way we had taught her. His ears were straining forward, and his nose searched the air for me. I took him from her and shot her to stop crying before Mom comes back. Look. I set Fitz in my lap and watched him try to burrow his head in the crook of my arm. Hey, baby. I scratched behind his ears and wished he would purr like a cat. Mom's going to find a home for you, don't worry. I heard Leah lean forward to listen, so I spoke louder. Mom knows how to take care of things. She'll make sure you have enough food and a nice comfy box to sleep in. Don't worry, baby, don't worry. Mom came out in a little jog with an umbrella. She opened the door and stuck her head in the car. Come on, girls, let's get out. Laura, put that rabbit in his box. We're going to stay chest squeezed like God had wrapped his fingers tight around me and didn't want to let me go. Pastor Jacob said when God got a hold of you, he didn't let go until you were fully sanctified and redeemed. Mom just said it was probably my old asthma flaring up, but it had nothing to do with God or asthma. It was love. Love made your chest feel this way and your stomach turned cartwheels the way mine was slipping now. Love made Dad leave to find a better job. Love wanted to bring him back, but I didn't think love was wide enough to include us in his scheme. Mom had shuffled us in our bags into Connor and Ava's apartment, cautioning us to make sure we wiped our feet and didn't sit on anything with our wet coats on. The apartment smelled like vanilla, and as we came into the living room, my heart started to beat faster. Connor's arms were wrapped around Ava, and he stood behind her with his chin in her honey blonde hair, and her hand was raised to her throat. They wore matching plush blue robes with their initials on them, just like the people on Land's End catalogs. Those robes must have cost at least $60 each. Their apartment looked so clean and shiny and bright. I'd never been in a place with so much white. Mom always said it was an impractical color, but I thought it was beautiful. With all the lights on and the cream-colored carpets and couches, it looked a little like heaven. And over the fireplace was a huge gold-framed picture of Ava dressed in her wedding dress in a garden. She wasn't smiling, and it seemed like a strange picture to put in your living room. We all stood facing each other in silence for a few moments until Leah turned to hug Mom's knees and hide her face. Connor's smile was apple cider warm, but Ava had the same look on her face that she did in her picture, and her arms were crossed over her chest. It didn't look like God was getting to her. Hi, Leah. Ava knelt down, trying to entreat her. Leah unwound herself from Mom and peered at Ava curiously. Let me help you out of that wet coat, sweetie. Floral. Ava glanced up at me. Aren't you turning into a pretty young lady? Thank you, I told her, even though I didn't think she meant it as a compliment. Well, I'm just going to run to the car to get this. Mom left it hanging in the air like a question. Ava paused in the middle of pulling off one of the coats of Leah's arm and sleepily frowned, but Connor nodded as he glanced at me. Sure, go get him, he told Mom. I watched her leave, and for a second I wanted to run after her the way Leah might have. The door closed behind her, and I sank into the sofa, forgetting to take off my coat. If that door didn't reopen in about 30 seconds, I was running out of this apartment and back into the rain to help her. After all, Bits, you get feisty for a rabbit. She might need my help. Connor was talking to me, but his voice sounded far away, like listening through a seashell. I was listening for my mother. More quickly than I thought, she was back again. She looked so tall and calm, even though her head was shining with rain, and dark smudges of half-moons rested under her eyes. She put the box down in the middle of the floor, sat beside me. She forgot to take off her coat too and wrapped me in a hug. I didn't care that she was getting me wetter than I already was. I didn't care that Connor was watching. I want to go to bed, Leah whined, and she tugged on Mom's arm. Can we go to bed? Sure, sweetie. Ava walked across the room to hang up Leah's coat. I'll show you your room. Good night, Grace, Connor told Mom. Hope you're all comfortable in there. Oh, we'll be fine. We're just grateful for a place to stay. You two really are a blessing. She smiled and picked up Leah, who was rubbing her eyes. Ava took Mom's elbow and led her to the back of the apartment. The sheets on the bed are clean, and I'll lay out a sleeping bag. There's a bathroom in the room, so you shouldn't have to worry about. Ava's voice got smaller as they moved away. Do we live here now? I asked Connor. For a little while, I think. He ran his fingers through his hair for a moment and shook his head. I'd always loved Connor's hair. He looked just like Hugh Grant when it fell in his eyes. Where are we going to put all our stuff that's still in our townhouse? Do you think we'll have to throw it away? Well, you can't fit in here. Your mom will probably put it into storage. He put his hand on my shoulder. Everything is going to work out okay. He nodded and said it. Everything will work out for the good. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe anything and everything Connor said. Night, Connor. I hugged his waist. He was warm and smelled like the chocolate oranges Mom sometimes gave me for Christmas. Good night. He ruffled my hair a little, sleep tight. Good thing tomorrow was Saturday and wouldn't have to go to school. Mom and Leah were already in their pajamas when I came in the room, and Mom was tucking Leah in. The bed looked fluffy and warm with its thick burgundy comforter and pillows piled everywhere. I'm sorry, Floral. We can take turns sleeping on the floor. Take turns, so we definitely would be here for more than a night. It's okay, Mom. I don't mind. She kissed my forehead. Love you, sweetie. I shrugged and mumbled, you too. She bent over her bag and pulled out her toothbrush, heading for the bathroom. I'm going to get some water for Bits in the kitchen if you'll be in the bathroom. Okay, Mom? I took the bowl we were using for his water out of his box. It had little brown pellets and some hay pieces floating in it. I swished the water around and wondered what it would be like if somebody gave me a glass of water with my poop in it. Ava was in the kitchen, pouring herself a cup of a thick drink the color of gold. Excuse me, Ava, I tried to inch past her to the sink. Where do you think you're going with that, Stink? She wasn't that tall, but when she stood over me, she was a giant. She was so close I could smell her soury sweet breath mixed with the perfume hiding in her robe. You can't put that down the sink. You'll have to dump it outside. It's cold and it's still raining outside. It's only drizzling and you're still wet anyway, Ava shrugged. But I started to back away from her. No but, Miss Floral. I cannot have that waste material in my sink. Her eyes were hazel and reminded me of the cat. It's either outside or that animal will have to drink soiled water, your choice. All I want to do is get some clean water. Floral, you'll just have to go outside. I'm sorry. I backed out of the kitchen so fast that I almost tripped and fell backwards. My ears and neck burning, I stepped outside and flung the dirty water on their doorstep. The coolness of the air helped slow my breathing, and I leaned up against the door to let the rain sink into my clothes, through my skin, and into my blood. Maybe if I got wet enough, I'd just melt and disappear. And no, maybe if I got wet enough, I could track wet footprints all over Ava's cream-colored carpet.
Thank you again all for coming. I hope you'll stay for the reception and have something to eat, drink, and talk to our readers. But mostly I want to thank all those students who read tonight. Thank you for spending this time at Berry. We're privileged to have you, and it's a sad loss to see you go.